sent out an email earlier just saying that I am still in contemplation about, when we talk about prayer, I want to make sure that, that I don't shortchange you all. Consideration for presentation as far as prayer is concerned. So this week we are again in a thought of faith, a test of faith, if you will. I'm going to talk about tonight. Again, that's out of Luke, the 15th chapter, starting at the 11th verse, going through the 32nd verse. Very familiar passage of Scripture. Some call it the prodigal son, some call it a compassionate father. We're going to talk about a few things on tonight. Let's pray in, and then we can go ahead and get started. Pastor Morrison, if you don't mind.
Father God, we thank you for another opportunity to come out to your house of prayer. We ask that you look on us now as we prepare to study a portion of your word. Open our hearts and open our minds, that we might be receptive to what your Holy Spirit has for us through your word on today. Lord, we just thank you for bringing us through this day, taking us over danger hills and highways and byways. Lord, you have been gracious to us, and we say thank you. We give your name all the praise and honor and the glory. Amen.
So again, we're going to go into Luke 15 and 11. So I want to tell you all a little story, and then I want you to just take a quick moment to consider this story. Okay? A bull was striving with all his might to squeeze himself through a narrow passage that led to his stall. A young calf came up and offered to go before him and show him the way by which he could manage to pass. "Save yourself the trouble," said the bull. "I knew that way long before you were born." Here's my question to you. Who or what does the bull represent? Who or what does the calf represent? What does the bull's too large size represent? What does the bull's attitude represent? What's the moral of the story? So take some time. I want you to consider the story, and I'll tell it again. A bull was striving with all his might to squeeze himself through a narrow passage that led to his stall. A young calf came up and offered to go before him and show him the way by which he could manage to pass. "Save yourself the trouble," said the bull. "I knew that way long before you were born." What does the bull represent? What does the calf represent? What does the bull's too large size represent? What does the bull's attitude represent? And what is the moral of the story? So I give you a minute, consider it, and then we'll discuss.
What does the bull represent?
What does the bull represent? What does the calf represent? What does the bull's too large size represent? What does the bull's attitude represent? And what's the moral of the story?
Kingdom of heaven.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, the bull represents mankind, us. The calf represents Jesus. The bull's size represents our ego.
Yeah.
Or our pride.
Yeah, ego, pride. And then what was the other one?
That was it.
It was-
Oh, he said, what's the moral of the story?
We're probably talking about Pharisees or the religious leaders. But they represent man, so either way you say it.
So what are our thoughts? We can discuss it out loud. What do we think? What does the bull represent?
We say mankind.
Mankind. Why do you say that?
Because then when you go to the size, we say it's ego and pride,
Okay.
that we think we know the right way. And as much as we're going to keep bumping our heads up against the wall or trying to squeeze through the hole, because that's in our nature.
Okay. So what does the calf represent?
Jesus.
Jesus.
Jesus. That's good. Okay. And so what's the moral of the story?
Yes. We need to follow Jesus and not try to do things on our own.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why immediately did you all go to a theologic kind of explanation? You introduced Jesus and pride and all these other things. Why did you go there? Curious.
That's what I'm here.
Okay.
Bible study.
I mean, that makes logical sense. Okay, just curious, just curious.
Now, if my fraternity brother had asked me, we would probably thought we would have looked at it a little different.
Okay, okay,
Or if you thought about your children, I mean, you can think about your children.
okay.
Yeah, you could.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what I presented is an example of a parable. Right? A parable is a short story meant to tell some truth. Depending upon where you read at in the Bible, Jesus uses various parables for different reasons. Right? A parable often would mask some of its meaning so that it required you in some way, shape, or form to go talk to Jesus further about what he was intending the hearer to know, or the thoughts that he was presenting. And a lot of people probably wouldn't. I mean, a lot of people probably wouldn't take the personal time to pull Jesus to the side and say, hey, what exactly were you presenting, or what did you mean by that? Jesus used these often to teach moral lessons and ideals. He also used them in terms of rebuking people. And so sometimes it was meant to be very plain, and you didn't have to pull him to the side to get the meaning, because he was giving an obvious rebuke to what was going on. So tonight we're looking at Luke 15. Luke 15 is a series of parables that Jesus is teaching. By the way, the parable that I just told you, I don't know the result or the resolve. I don't know. I haven't studied it in depth like that. Really just a discussion starter about parables. So I don't want y'all to go away thinking about the bulls and the calves and all that. Jesus, he presents three parables in succession in this particular scripture, and he presents them as a response to a challenge that is presented by the Pharisees. Right? So early on in the chapter, the challenge that's presented by the Pharisees is, look at this man who's around all of these sinners. Right? I'm paraphrasing. And the gist of it was, how is it that he can present himself as Messiah, as holy, as set apart, when all of that is conditioned upon staying away from undesirable stuff and people? And so they're really asking a deep moral question about the nature and the character of Jesus Christ, to which he retorts with a parable about lost sheep, a parable about lost coins, and then this parable about the compassionate father or the prodigal son, depending upon how you read it, or some of where your Bibles notate what the story is called. Okay? Now, there are some striking differences and some similarities between these three parables. Right? When you read them, you'll see a lot of information about things being lost and returned, stuff being gone and restored. But at the same time, there's some differences between the parables and their resolution. And so we'll discuss a little bit about those tonight. And I also want to ask you guys just a few questions, practical application questions as we go along. So I'm reading out of the King James Version. I'm at verse 11. As we go along, I want you guys to consider these two things that are written on the board up here. I want you to consider the Father and the Son. And for each of those two, I want you to consider their actions and their motivations. So as we're reading, I want you to think about what the Father is doing and what may be motivating that, what the Son is doing, what may be motivating that. And once we get to the end of the chapter, we'll go back and review, we'll put some stuff on the board, and we'll talk about it. So, here's what it says, King James Version. And he said, a certain man had two sons, and he that he's talking about is Jesus. And the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me. And he divided unto them his living. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together, and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living. And when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in that land. And he began to be in want. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his field to feed swine. And he would fain have filled his belly with the husk that the swine did eat, and no man gave unto him. And when he came to himself, he said, How many hired servants of my father's have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me as one of thy hired servants. And he arose and came to his father, but when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servants, Bring forth the best robe, and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet. And bring hither the fatted calf, and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. He was lost, and is found. And they began to be merry. Now his elder son was in the field, and as he came and drew nigh to the house, he heard music and dancing, and he called one of the servants, and asked what things meant. And he said unto them, Thy brother is come, and thy father hath killed the fatted calf, because he hath received him safe and sound. Alright, so let's take just a little bit of time. Let's discuss a few things. And then we get out of here. So, who do we see in the story? We see a father, we see a son. So let's start with the son. What are some of the actions early on, looking at around verse 11 through 15 or so, what are some of the actions early on that this young man takes?
He asked for his inheritance.
Oh,
From.
he asked for his inheritance.
Give me the money right now. Wow. Are you still alive?
All right, asked for inheritance. Get your inheritance. Okay, what else did he do?
He abandoned his father.
Okay. Abandon his father. What else did he do?
Spend it all.
Okay, spent all, and I'm gonna put and wasted.
And wasted, yes.
You're gonna include that as mine?
Yeah. What else did this young man do?
I don't know if this is significant. I don't know the significance of it. I know it's significant because it's in the Bible. But he made himself a citizen of a different land.
Okay.
I don't know the significance of that, but it has to bear something that's in there.
Did he make himself a citizen?
It says he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country. Oh,
Yes.
he hired himself out as to a citizen.
Okay. Hired himself out. All right. Anything else we see him doing?
He became the one.
Okay. Became the one.
The thing I think is significant is it says that he abandoned his father, and then it says that he spent it all. But I thought it was interesting the way they phrased it, that he went to a far off land. He
Yes.
went.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay. I'm gonna write it down here. Went to far off land. That's good.
Journey to Orkney.
And then I'm gonna say something that really jumped out with me is he came to himself.
Came to himself, yes.
He came to himself, right? All right. So I ran out of those. So we're gonna move on to the father. All right. What are some of the actions that we see this father? What are some of the actions that he goes about in the text? And Sister Thelma said he ate. Okay, I might just want to write that.
Ate with pigs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking
Ate
that's significant
Ate
for me.
with swine. Okay. He considered eating with swine. Yes. Okay. Okay.
Considered him as one.
Okay. Yeah, that's deep. That's deep. Okay. So what are some of the actions that the father took. What are some of the things that happened with this father in the text?
Well, the first thing that's significant is the father letting him have the inheritance.
Right.
Let
To me, that was amazing.
him have
Here, take it. You want it? Take it.
inheritance. Okay.
And let it go.
Let him go. Okay.
Waiting for him to return.
Okay. And I'm going to parenthetically put, because the text doesn't indicate it, and it doesn't infer anywhere that he looked for him.
Right.
And so I'm going to put parenthetically, didn't look for him.
That he didn't look for him?
Didn't look for him.
He didn't leave his place of righteousness and go out.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Didn't go looking.
Yeah, he didn't go looking for him.
Besides
did
going out
not
to
go-
the yard
Here's-
and looking down the road.
Here you go.
That's it, yeah.
And he never left. Go ahead. Now do what you got to do. You didn't go looking for him.
Right.
What other actions?
He celebrated when he returned.
Okay, celebrated his return.
Okay, y'all past 15. Y'all going all the way, huh?
Okay. And restored him back to his, rightful place.
Okay, restored. That's good. All right, so let's work with it. Let's do it. So early on, what we see, the son comes to the father, and he asked him for his inheritance. Now, the individuals who Jesus is responding to, the Pharisees, would have understood a few things based upon this action, right? One, an inheritance is generally given once somebody has died. So first of all, he had an order asking for this in the first place. He's also the younger brother, so they would have known that he would have gotten probably a third of whatever it is that the father gave, because the older brother would generally get a double portion. Okay.
Right.
So what they would know first and foremost is not only is he out of order, he's taking such a small slice of this inheritance that he has, and he's going, what do you think are his motives? Why do you think he wants this stuff?
Well, first, rebellion. Well, I don't know first. It's like rebellion. So
Okay.
Rebellion, yeah, I was going to say.
Okay.
Impatience.
Got it. Yeah. Impatience.
Right.
Go off and do it on his own.
Right.
He wants to do it on his own. Okay. Do we want to say independence?
I would even argue that he is not just independence, he's seeking freedom.
Okay. Independent, one his own way, seeking freedom. Okay.
In that he's seeking freedom from his father's reign of order and rules and guidelines.
Okay.
I was thinking more worldly. He gets to go out into the world, go away from the farm and go into the world and be, do something different. Different lifestyle. Maybe that's a
Like all young people.
I think the fact that he spent it all and kind of was wasteful shows his immaturity. I think there's a very immature kind of situation going there. He was looking to indulge himself more than anything, because it says that he did it with riotous living. Like,
That's right.
when he went big. He went to Vegas, he spent all the money. He went big, right? So, indulgent and irresponsible.
Or straight up foolish.
Foolish, that's good. Okay. So he finds himself looking, or he comes to himself. What does that kind of say when he all of a sudden turns it around, comes to himself? What does that say about this young man?
Well, before he comes to himself,
Okay.
don't he think that he's broke and he wants to eat with the pigs?
I can eat with the pigs.
He wants to do that first, and then he says, "Oh, wait a minute,
So do you
Something
think
ain't right about that.
Yeah.
desperation and destitution forced him into that? Is that kind of the motivating factor?
He hit rock
He
bottom.
was down there, yeah.
He hit rock bottom.
He wasn't out there having fun and then saying, I want to come for myself. You know, he was at the bottom.
Thought he was grown enough to be on his own. Okay, okay, okay. And then the father. The father. So the father let him have the inheritance. Why do you think he let him have it? He was, again, because the father is living, he is under no obligation to give this young man what he's asking for. So why do you think, or what consideration do you think he had going into this and let him, have this his way?
Grace.
Okay.
Mercy.
Love.
Okay. Love,
Yeah, I say love. Yeah.
grace, mercy.
Same thing the father shows us.
What do you think
And
was
he was
the...
willing to release him and not hold him in bondage.
Okay. What do you think about the whole, he didn't go looking for him? Why do you think he stayed at the farm?
Because he had to learn a lesson. If
Okay.
he had went and got him, he wouldn't have learned the lesson.
And maybe to some degree, the father understood that he trained him right and he had good roots
That's what I was.
and that he's gonna come back.
That's what I was thinking when he said he came to himself.
Right.
Set the foundation.
He had a foundation, yes.
And then for his return, he celebrated. Well, what do you think he celebrated? Why do you think he was so happy to see, one, somebody who took what he didn't deserve up front, wasted it, and so me as a father, I'm out something. And it's wasted. It's not like he went and brought me a return. I didn't get no interest or increase on this investment in any way, shape, or form, but he's still celebrating him. So why do you think he still celebrates him? Why does he celebrate his return? What's the motive behind that? Because he threw a nice party.
I think it could be two things. One, it reconfirmed to the father that he had done the right thing with his son and put a foundation there. And then when he saw his son return, that reemphasized that he had a strong foundation and that I'm going to say his trust in God was going to bring his son back.
Okay.
That's why he never went looking for him.
Got it. Trust me. Okay. Like it. Okay. So let me ask you a question. You all in here. Okay, so he realized that there were things he still needed to learn from his father. Let him learn things he might not have been able to teach on his own. That's what Sister Jackson is saying. So let me ask you guys this question, and I want you to consider this as a parent. What should you as a parent consider when deciding to say no to your child or saying yes to allow your child to learn a life lesson? And obviously your children are grown, so let me phrase it this way. Let me phrase it this way. What advice would you give me in how I should respond in some of these situations where I want to say no because I see that the road you're on is difficult, but maybe I need to say yes because maybe there's a lesson that needs to be learned from wherever it is you're trying to go in life. So what?
Count the cost of the consequences.
Okay, so you count the cost of the consequences.
Yeah, so he sent his son with, $30,000. Worst he can do is spend it all and come back home.
Okay.
In my opinion.
I would say you proceed very prayerfully. It's no other way, and honestly, there is no other way to put it. You got to proceed prayerfully if you want to make the right decision. Sometimes we got to put our kids out there, even though we know they're going in harm's way, but the only way they're going to actually learn the lesson is they got to go through it. And if you bumping your head up against the wall and you just want to go through it, sometimes you just got to open the door and say, go ahead.
So what kind of choices should we operate within that purview? Because, right, there's a lot of choices that a young person's going to make. Some are financial, some are about their relationships, some are about their spirituality, some are about their sexuality. I mean, there's a ton of choices and a ton of options that young people are going to be faced with. Which ones, you know, when they're 13 or 14, which ones are the ones that I'm just going to let them learn this lesson, or maybe I should intervene? Should I intervene with this person whom they seem to have an attraction to? Should I not? Should I? You say yes, intervene? That's
See, I'm old school. I'm old school. I think you should intervene in everything. You should intervene in all of it. You should
Okay.
be all up in their business. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? I'd rather be all up in their business and actually be ahead of what's going on than not take the time that I should take and something slap me in the head that you should have known, but because you weren't paying attention, you didn't know. You just, I have a problem with letting, I have a problem with letting kids, now I'm not talking about adults, kids, children, just do whatever they want to do. Including teenagers. When you get old enough where you can move out,
That's
then
the worst.
I kind of say, yeah, you got kind of more room. But it's going to help them. If you don't ever tell them don't do that, and they do it, and then it all turns out bad, how's that make you look? And it's not even an issue of how it makes you look. Now you got to clean it up, but you have to clean up something that you could have prevented. You may have been able to prevent. At least if I said something, I might not feel quite as bad. But if I let you fall in that ditch, and I say the ditch and I didn't say that, you know, it's kind
You
of,
have to give them some freedom and independence to make mistakes. Otherwise, they're not going to learn from making mistakes.
Yeah,
That's true.
you absolutely have to do that.
That's true.
This is the thing though. You can't let them run amok, or you can't, it does have to be balanced. You can't let, first of all, you need to be honest with your kids, and you need to make them aware of consequences, and so that it doesn't get to the end, and then all of a sudden, they're out there, they don't understand consequences could be death, you know, I mean, it could be real consequences, right?
Mhm.
So you have to expose them to as many things as possible, and you can't hide everything from them. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want them to be so sheltered that when they go to college, when they first time they do go to college, they go crazy, and then they get stuff that they're not even, they have no perception, no concept that, hey, there's people out there that will really harm me. So,
So now let me ask a question. I'm glad you brought that up. So, in this parable, this was a rich kid, is a wealthy kid. So when he came out of the realm of his father's authority and goes out on his own, how does he get caught up in righteous living?
no, he didn't get caught up in it. He went looking for it.
He wasn't looking for it, right?
Right.
He wasn't looking for it, but he's a rich kid. He probably had everything he wanted, could do probably almost whatever he wanted to do. But why do he need to come out of that framework and go somewhere, go to a far country, far as way he can get away from him, and go crazy?
Greener pastures. It always looks
They
better
all
on those sides.
good, no matter how much money they have.
And I think that's a truth, right? I think that no matter how much outside we perceive that rich people have a high life, for them, they see it as an imprisonment. You know, the young rich kid got nannies and got cooks and all these people, all these eyes on him. I want to be able to go out and just do me. And the only way I can do that is to totally disconnect. So one of the things that Dr. Baker mentioned was the fact that he went to a far-off land. So not only does he disconnect just from his immediate family, he disconnects from everything that's familiar. Anybody that would question what's going on. From what I understand, there used to be a time where most anybody on the block could discipline you.
Yes.
That was before my time.
Everyone's wrong.
That wasn't that long ago.
That was before my time, right? So apparently mean, you got books, you got, you got some type of discipline from a lot of folks. It was the whole, it takes a village, and we're going to watch our own, and we're going to make sure you're following right back. So he wanted to get free from anybody that might try to apply any form of discipline, any of your daddy taught you better, and your mama, your mama wouldn't want you to do that.
Right.
He got out there in the world, and can we just be honest? I think we've been there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? I think we've all had that time where it's like, I'm just gonna do me. I don't care what nobody say. I'm just gonna do me. And so the reason that I asked that question is because there are careful considerations that we have to make when the choices or the consequences to the choices are dire. Although it may not seem like his consequences were dire, they were. He could have gotten himself really hurt. He could have died. There were some serious consequences. And so I agree, there are some things that are the purview of the parent to say, hey, hold on, stop. But there has to be some lessons taught. My mother, she wrote a careful balance in her life, bless her heart. When I was 13, I wanted to get my ears pierced. This was Carol King's logic. This was Carol King's logic. They just ears. They just ears. Then I wanted to get my afro right. I had my natural going. You know what I'm saying? Picking it all, right? I was at school in pajamas with a pig in my hair. That's the kind of high school I was. I was living life. It was carefree life, right? And this was logic that Carol applied. It's just hair. So for the things which consequences were great, she let them be the purview of my choice. Because the consequences, your public appearance, the way people see you, there's some consequences with that, but right now at this stage, they're not going to be as big. But I still got to let you learn a few things on your own. And I think that's the careful consideration that this father had. So the father allows the young man to get everything that was due him. And then he allows him to leave. He lets him go. Are there times in life where God gives us what we want? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what happens in those times? What are some of the benefits, consequences, I don't know how you want to state it, to when God gives us what we ask of him?
Sometimes it's a blessing and sometimes it's a burden.
We don't know what we need.
Yeah. He might give you that car, but you're going to work hard. Pay for it.
Donna bought her car on her own without telling me. She put $50 down. They taught her how to drive it automatic so she could get out the parking and get out the lot. And did I have to bail that car out once they repossessed it?
Yeah.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Wow.
So real quick, turn to Proverbs 20 and 21. Proverbs 20 and 21. And somebody read that.
I thought only boys did crazy stuff like that.
Proverbs
20
and
21.
21 says, an inheritance gained hastily in the beginning will not be blessed in the end.
Wow. What does that mean?
That's deep.
When you don't work for it. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Somebody was talking.
That's good.
Yeah, if you don't work for it, you're not going to understand the value of it, and it's going to be a curse to you.
This sounds almost applicable to this young man.
Almost.
Yes, sir.
Right? He had some stuff that he got real quick, but he didn't earn. He had no capacity to realize the value of money, right? To realize the value of possessing stuff and being responsible, a wise steward over it. I would even beg to say that that's a problem with a lot of folk in life, is we don't understand the value of money, and so we don't know how to work and operate with it correctly. And part of that, I ain't blaming nobody, But part of that is because the people who came before us, they didn't know nothing about money.
Right.
They ain't tell us nothing about balancing checkbooks and budgets. What's a budget? Right? You don't learn that kind of stuff. And school don't teach it anymore.
No.
Right.
So,
Well,
We've all learned this.
certain schools don't teach it. Yeah. But that ain't all schools.
so let's see, verse 13. So many days after the young son gathered all together, he went to a faraway land. He went to go look for the riotous living, the stuff he wanted to do. And when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in that land, and he began to be in want. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country. He sent him into the field to feed swine. What was the relationship between Jewish people and swine?
They didn't touch it.
Yeah,
Okay,
kind of the forbidden.
That's the forbidden.
it's unclean.
It's unclean.
It's unclean. And so since Jesus is presenting this to a Jewish audience, he's using this as a tool to give them an understanding of the level of depravity
He went to.
that he went to. Right? So now let's ask a spiritual question of ourselves. Why does God want us to read this today? Because oh, it might be outside. Okay, so why does God allow this particular passage in here today? So when we're talking about Bible, what we need to understand is the context in which Jesus is speaking. That includes the people who he's talking to and the reason why. Because that's going to give us an overall understanding of what is meant and then how we're supposed to apply it to our lives. So the question I'm asking is, what do you think the application for this particular statement or this ideal being planted here is for our lives?
Well, two things. When you waste, you create want. And when you're in want,
There's somebody in the church.
you'll find yourself in a position. Hey, what's up?
You was about to get jacked.
You find yourself in a position where you compromise
Okay.
what your standards are, what your being is, just to survive.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, and pretty much that's what happened to this kid. And I'm a witness. It'll happen to you too,
And you said that's when you're in want?
when you're want.
Yeah.
When you waste it and you create such a want.
So the connection is that we can put ourselves in position to be in want to the degree that we fall into depravity. We fall into debased things, living a life that doesn't look like God. In other words, this man has fallen so far, he went from rich living to living in the forbidden. Right? I don't know if anybody's fallen like that before.
Yeah.
But it happens. And we think early on, if I can just get this, I'll be okay. If I get more money, I'll be blessed. If I get more things, if I can acquire more. If I can get that thing that's going to really revolutionize my life, and then we get out there, and I want to do how I want to do it. I want to be how I want to live any old kind of way. And we sometimes don't think about the consequences. And mind you, this is a big thing for him, but sometimes it's even in the small stuff for us.
Yeah.
Right? There are some things we just don't consult God about. We almost act as if he's not concerned. But being in the will of God, operating correctly, doing the stuff we're supposed to, is major. But here's the beautiful thing. Here's the beautiful thing. As he goes out to be with these swine, his depravity gets a little deeper. Because now he's thinking about, well, I'm hungry. The price of food is then gone up to the degree that this little day laboring I'm doing is not cutting it. It's not fulfilling it. Maybe I'll just eat what the pigs eat because they seem to eat and not be in want. And then it's then that he comes to himself. And he says, you know what?
This ain't working.
Even if I become a servant, because that's all I am here now. Back with my father,
I'll be doing better than what I'm doing now.
I'll be doing way better. than what I'm doing right now. Right? The beautiful part about when we get even far from God is that repentance, the change of heart, the turnaround, can work in us. He literally repents. He says, I'm turning from this. This is not the life I was meant for. This is not the life I'm supposed to have. I had better before. And even if I don't get back to the same stature, same status, the same place, at least the place I can get to with my Father is a whole lot better than this. How does he approach his Father? What's his plan for his approach?
He's going to go back and say, I don't deserve to be. He admits his wrong. Doesn't ask, can I get my robe back and my ring? He says, I don't deserve none of that. I just want to be your servant.
Okay.
He says he sins against God and his.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay.
No more worthy to be called sons.
Yeah, that's it.
So he left proud.
Came back home.
He came back very humble.
Very humble.
What do you think this means about how we ought to approach God in our comeback?
The only way you can is with humility.
This is what David says. Have mercy upon me, O God, according to thy loving kindness, according unto the multitude of thy tender mercies, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from mine iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. For I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me. Against thee, thee only, have I sinned, and done this evil in thy sight, that thou mightest be justified when thou speakest, and be clear when thou judgest. Behold, I was shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. Behold, thou desirest truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden parts thou shalt make me to know wisdom. Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. Make me to hear joy and gladness, that the bones which thou hast broken may rejoice. Hide thy face from my sins, blot out all my iniquities. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Cast me not away from thy presence, and take not thy Holy Spirit from me. That's Psalms 50. I'm sorry, Psalm 51. It kind of felt that way as the young man is contemplating his return. Here's a few things that his return, his thinking, in my sight, is predicated on. One, he believed, he had faith, he trusted. There was something inside of him that said, I can go back and make this declaration, and my Father will hear me and allow me to at least be a servant.
Yeah.
As humble as he was coming back, he had a faith in him that said, if I come head bowed, if I come correct, if I ask, he'll at least allow me the opportunity to be part of his servants. And that way, these needs that I now recognize are out there, because I had never known this kind of need before. These needs that I recognize are out there will be filled.
This hungry thing ain't good.
This is not going to work for me. It's not going to work for me. Right? So this is the mentality that the young man is going with. See, when we come back to God, we come back to God in faith. Right? Even as our head is bowed down low, we still have a boldness when we go before the throne of grace. The boldness is this: I know that God can. That's a deep trust and recognition of his power and his substance. When I go to God in prayer, when we talk to him about whatever the issue is, whether it's an issue that we're dealing with in sin, it's an issue or concern that we're trying to overcome for his glory, whether it's a ministry or mission that he's putting us on, when we go to God in prayer, we're believing that whatever we're asking him about, he has a resolve for, that he has the power to take care of, that there's consideration, that there's his omnipotence can handle this particular situation. So that's the boldness that we go forth in. But we go in humility, recognizing that we need it and don't deserve it. Not a contradiction. It's a reality. Right? Well, my baby.
You know, what's interesting, the point that you made there is you said that God will or God can, but the truth is that God will if you come back right. That's the part that's incredible. It's like you can know in confidence that if you go to God right, can't try to trick him.
Right.
Because he's smarter than that. But if you go to him sincere and you go to him right, he will forgive you.
So let me ask you a question, because you bring out actually a very good point. So there are sometimes people who become prodigal in church or prodigal in our lives. How do we know or how do we assess or what do we do when those people desire to come back into fellowship or come back into relationship with us? How do we know or assess if it's genuine? Because I can't see heart.
Well, see, that's a different, so you change the question. The original was God. Now, when you said, how do we do it?
Yes,
that's a whole different
How do
story. We have to accept them in faith,
Right.
trusting God. However, they could do anything.
Okay.
Because we don't have the capacity to.
Well, God already said that he's going to come and separate.
Yeah.
We can't separate. We don't know.
We don't know. That's right.
Well, the reason I ask is because the father accepts this young man back. There's no guarantee he won't go crazy again.
No.
Yeah, that's true, but that's also a different relationship too. But that's another business.
But it's the same.
That's a good point,
There's no
yeah.
guarantee.
Yeah.
But that's his fault.
This doesn't matter.
So you're gonna spend the money on your kids regardless. They take it, they're gonna get it all anyway.
Okay.
You want
Okay.
you want the other third?
Now I'll get it later.
I'm only gonna be here for another couple of years anyway. I'm going back to see the father.
So this is the thinking that the young man goes through, right? He has confidence that his father, will at least restore him to servant level, right? But his surprise is that when he comes back, and this is how the text reads, and this is good because we noted that he went to a far land, and the Bible says that when he was still afar off,
Right. So he was looking for him.
not necessarily that he was looking for him, but that he noted a change in him.
As he was coming back.
Because you're coming back. You got to come back for something.
Well, that's true.
And you had separated yourself from us, meaning you didn't want to have nothing to do with us. But you coming back is saying something. You're coming back the right way. It's saying something. And what does the Father do?
There was no problem.
No delay. Let me go meet you. Before you can even get here, let me go meet you. Because you've turned around, you're coming in the right way. Let me meet you where you're at. I'm willing to come and extend myself, but I got to see that you got the right way about you. Let me come to where you're at. What does he do? He throws a robe on. Puts a ring on his finger. What's all that about?
Restoring him.
Restoring him back to
I got to get
his
you
rightful
back.
place.
You get in the position you had before. Why's that significant?
Because you're my son.
Okay.
Yeah.
For us, what does it tell us? What does it speak to for us?
Yeah, grace. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because we're not deserving.
Okay. To me, it speaks this. What Jesus says, I believe it's in John, where he says, I no longer call you servants, but I call you friends. In other words, the nature of our relationship is not just going to be the servitude thing, but we're going to be here. I'm going to restore you back to the level that I intended you to be in the first place. Meaning we get that same positioning that Adam had. I'm taking you back to the way you were designed to be. Even though you had some time out there in the world, even though you came across some issues, even though you ceremonially defiled yourself, and all of that happened, but I'm not going to see that. That's not my concern. My concern is that you always belong to me, even when you didn't want to. You've always been mine. Even when you didn't care about me. Even when you messed off the stuff I gave you, like the gifts that I presented to you, and you used them in a way that you weren't supposed to live life for yourself. Even though all of that happened, you come back. And I'm going to love you. And I'm going to restore you. You don't have to go be a servant. You can come back and be in the rightful place you're supposed to be. Ain't that good news? My God. So he throws him a party. Kill the fatted calf. Bring the best for him. Because my son who was dead is now alive. And when he says he was dead, he means that from a literal and legal standpoint. He was gone from us, no longer in existence, based upon the life he wanted to live. Sin will do that to you. Sin makes you far from God. But he's alive now. Quickened. And so I'm restoring him. Now, we didn't read this part, but it is in there. The older brother, who eventually will get a double portion, his response to this return, he seems a little upset. Right? He seems a little like, wait a minute.
What's up with that?
I ain't get no fatted calf.
No, he's ticked off.
I ain't get no fatted calf.
Yeah.
I've been here this whole time.
I've been
Has
faithful.
been working, been faithful.
I've been faithful.
Mhm.
And you know, we get like that sometimes. When we see people who just got here.
Sometimes.
When we see people who just got here. And they seem to get a better reward, even though they had bad behavior. But here's what the Bible speaks to. And this is clear. What Jesus has said this time and time again. Right? He's promised the same reward to everybody, regardless of when they come, so long as they come correct. The same reward that you and I got or are getting because we came to Bible study, and because we made time for God, and because you went witnessing, and because is the same reward that the thief on the cross got. The same word that we got for the baptism and the tithing, and I want to be clear, I'm not saying that you earned this reward, because none of that is earning this reward. The same gift given, let me put it that way, is the same thing that every sinner through history who from our perspective maybe shouldn't have gotten, get so long as they've connected to Jesus Christ in a proper relationship. Because the first will be last.
Are you saying I'm only going to get 1 penny for my 8 hours?
And that's what I promised you.
Wow.
That was what the agreement was. I mean, your heaven ain't gonna be better than my heaven, right? I mean, that's what the agreement was. And so we have to be careful how we treat God's people when they do come back. Because we can't assess fully the genuineness of their coming back. All we can do is celebrate. Because that's what they're doing in heaven. We're just part of a party that's going on even right now in the celestial. Right? And what we should really enjoy is the fact that we got one more soldier.
Yes.
Another soul. Somebody got right. We started to fulfill the covenant relationship of Matthew 28, and we're teaching them to obey whatsoever. I mean, those are the things that we ought to be rejoicing about. Not distrustful, not side-eyed, not, well, why did they get all this celebration? Because they've come back. And they get to enjoy the kingdom. And they get to celebrate as a son. This man left, and I got a brother again. I got a sister again. I didn't think they were coming back. When I saw them get hooked back on drugs, I didn't know they were coming back. But I can rejoice now. Because not only have they come back, they look well. God is doing a wonderful thing in their life. And I don't know why they had to go for that season, but they're back. Praise the Lord. Yeah, we might give you a little time, but yeah, come on back in the choir. And come on back, preach. And come on back, get on that usher board. Because you're back, you return. Praise the Lord. So here's the thing. we'll often have some tests of our faith. A lot of times, the test will come of our own doing. In other words, we put ourselves in positions where we're challenged, and we should be very careful and cautious about how we live our life to not put ourselves in those types of positions. Sometimes the test comes because it's your season. It's just your season to try. You didn't do anything wrong. You lived a righteous and holy life, and it's your season. Right? Either way, rejoice and give your life to the Lord. Because here's the thing. If you come back from sin, and you've been tested, and you was out there, but you done came back in faith, God is glorified. If He allows you to go through a storm, and through the storm you maintained your integrity, and you held on, and you rejoiced even in the midst of it, God is glorified. See, when our faith is tested, God is glorified. Because nobody else can get the credit for keeping us. Right? This young man wasn't kept because he was savvy. That definitely was what he was not.
No.
He was kept by grace. And he was able to come back and be restored by grace. So, when the test comes, hold on to God. Because He can and He will restore you. And He'll celebrate that His child is back in the position that they're supposed to be. Thoughts, feelings, questions, concerns?
You're going to remember this Bible study when Lena gets ready to leave.
Y'all pray my strength. Y'all pray my
When
strength.
you're not ready for her to leave, you think she's ready.
Pray my strength.
It's good.
Even in the story, one of the things that keeps bouncing in my head is how the father received the son back.
Mhm.
And think about if one of your kids went sideways, how do you receive them back? Do you actually try to restore them back to, and I mean not just in the church level, but in our own personal, do you actually try to restore them back to where they should be? Or do we always have some little reservations, and we kind of put them in a box? Because
That's why we come here.
because you done messed up, so you got a couple of scars, so you're still my kid, but you're over here. And it's amazing how this father, it didn't matter what the other boy said, it's what the father believed and what he did. And I think it speaks volumes in how our relationship should be. Okay.
So, yeah, I agree with that. But when you're raising, I'm going back to the children thing. When you're, even with God, even with us as God's children, when we do things wrong, there are consequences,
Oh, I agree.
right?
I agree.
And so the consequence, He forgives you if you repent, right? If you come correct and repent correctly. But there are consequences to our sin.
Yes.
We can be restored, but still have to suffer some consequences. So our children still may need to be punished for having gone away and done crazy stuff. But yeah, we're going to restore them, but they still have to suffer the consequences.
But I mean more, and I get that, but I mean more so of this father elevated his son. And what I'm saying is, do we elevate our kid? Yeah, you're going to have to get some consequences or whatever, but do we actually attempt to put them back where they're actually supposed to be? Or do we say, okay, I'm glad you're back, you suffer your consequences, and just be? To me, it seems like the father took extra effort to really restore his child. And that just kind of bounces around my head, because I don't know that we always do that in the church setting or in a personal setting. And it's a challenge, it's not easy.
You can look at it, well, first of all, when I was responding to you, I was responding that I think we need to look at the story and try to take lessons from it.
Yes.
That's how I was responding to you. But then when you guys start talking more and more about this kid, it doesn't say that he went off and lost his money, and when he came back, he's still gonna get a second inheritance when his father died. He didn't say any of that kind of stuff.
No.
So it doesn't say that there were no consequences. What it's saying is the father loves him
Yes, yes.
and is treating him like a son.
Right, right,
And,
right.
and one of the things that I was supposed to note is these three stories are related to what's going on with the Pharisees.
What it says also is that it's one parable. All three of them are one single parable. They all work together.
So, right, so here you go. You have one that's a coin that gets lost. Inanimate object gets swept for, gets found. You one that has sheep, right? Animals who, by nature, are not very smart. That's what they say. Prone to wander. Who wanders off, right? So you have an inanimate object, and then you have a creature whose sense is not well. But then you have this person who should know better. Look at the differences between how these things are found or gone after. Right? This last parable isn't so much about people who are in the world, like lost coins and sheep.
Right.
This last one is about folks who should know better and who should be doing better. But even though those folks who know better and should do better don't, they still can come back and be restored. Right? Those are, kind of the critical differences between the other portions of what Jesus is saying. And ultimately is this. I need to respond. He ultimately needs to just respond to this. Basically, he's saying to them, why wouldn't I be here, available to and searching for the stuff that's lost? I'm hanging around the folks that are lost. The folks who need me the most. You may have problems with that, but that's what I'm here for. God sent me for these folk who are lost. And then you who should know better, you have an opportunity if you come correct. Shall we rise? Any prayer requests?
Well, continue to pray for the Campbell family. Bereavement, their loss.
Pray for Deacon and Sister Wallace.
Wallace, yes.
They part of